Now being recorded.
Morning. I am Heather Westerfield, Chair of the Commission on School Accreditation. This regularly scheduled meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation is being held today, Thursday, August 1st, 2019, at 10 a.m. in the 4th floor boardroom, Central High School Building, 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi, in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 25415. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded, and this meeting is also being live streamed. So just a quick reminder to the members that are here to please, when you speak into them, and our people that will be presenting to speak into the microphones. As I call the names of the commission members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Kelly Barfield.
Present, Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Tom Brewer. Kenny Bush.
Present, Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Sarah Foster.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Roy Gill.
Present, Harrison County School District, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Brian Harvey.
Present, Clinton, Mississippi.
Michael Lindsay.
Present, Oxford, Mississippi.
Dr. Valencia Martin.
This is, I'm here in Greenwood, Mississippi. This is Dr. Valencia Martin.
Okay, very good. Did you state your location? Greenwood. I'm sorry. Got a little
Greenwood, Mississippi.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Got a little feedback on that. Thank you. John Mistelis. Okay. Anthony Montgomery. Eddie Prather. Brad Stevens.
Good morning. Present and participating from Amory, Mississippi.
Fred Williams.
Present, boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Heather Westerfield, present, 4th floor boardroom. And since I just called their names, I would like to welcome 2 new members to the commission. First, we have Mr. Brad Stevens. Mr. Stevens, I believe you're from Smithville, is what I heard.
That's correct.
We are very happy to have you and welcome you aboard. And then Miss Ingrid Williams, and you are from Clinton, I believe you said. Very good. Well, welcome both of you. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that signed on after we called names? Mr. Brewer, did you sign on? Okay. Okay, a quorum of the commission is present for the purpose of conducting this meeting. At this time, the meeting is called to order at 10:04 a.m. At this time, Ms. Foster is going to lead us in the invocation.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to meet, and I just pray that you will be with us as we make decisions, to give us wisdom. And Father, I say a special prayer for all the teachers, administrators, and students who are getting ready to start this new school year. I just pray that it will be the best year ever, and that it will be a year full of successes, and I just pray that you will watch over our entire state during this time. In your name I pray. Amen.
Okay, moving on to item 2. And also we are working with some new technology here in the boardroom. So members that are present, if you have any issues with your laptops or anything during the meeting, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, raise a flag. We'll get somebody to come help you with it. All right, so item 2, adoption of the agenda. Commission members, you have received a copy of the agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
So move, Sarah Foster.
Motion by Ms. Foster.
Roy Gill, second.
Second by Mr. Gill. Is there any discussion? Okay, I will call for a vote. I will call for a vote for the members that are in the boardroom first, and then members that are on the phone second. So Members in the boardroom, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item number 3, approval of the minutes of the June 6, 2019 meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. You were provided a copy of that in your backup materials. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
Kelly Barfield, so moved.
Motion by Ms. Barfield,
Second by Brian Harvey.
Dr. Mark, second.
okay, I heard a second by Mr. Harvey. Is there any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, very good. Item 4, consideration of request to establish State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 28, Rule 28.8, Mississippi Seal of Biliteracy. And we have Wendy Clemens and others and guests. Ms. Clemens, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Malone, Chairperson Westerfield, and State Commission members. This morning, we bring forth new state guidelines for the Mississippi Seal of Biliteracy. The purpose of these guidelines is to set minimum standards for districts that choose to offer a seal of biliteracy, recognizing students who have attained proficiency in one or more world language or languages and English by high school graduation. Each district that chooses to participate will adopt a local school board policy which adheres to these basic standards that you find in the guideline packet. Based on national research, MDE personnel, specifically Ms. Sandy Elliott as well as Mr. Lemuel Eubanks, researched and established 2 attainment levels of biliteracy. The first attainment level would be a silver seal of biliteracy, which functional fluency literacy at an intermediate or mid-range. And the second attainment level would be a gold seal of biliteracy, fluency at an advanced range. So to accomplish one of these levels of attainment, the student will show achievement in English plus one or more other languages during their high school years. If you want to follow along, I want to show you specifically how a student might do that. In the appendix of the guidelines that you received on page 20 and 21, and I'll give you guys a minute if you want to go there. On page 20 and 21, it's in the guidelines. You should have, it says the Seal of Biliteracy Guidelines. Yes, ma'am. Page 20 and 21. There you will see we have outlined acceptable evidence of proficiency for the silver seal of biliteracy. You will notice that there are some assessments here that we already administer in our state. For example, English 2, there are ACT, but there are various examinations that students take or could take and score certain levels that would show proficiency at what we determine an intermediate or silver level, okay? So that identifies what that looks like. If you flip over one page to pages 22 and 23, again, these pages outline acceptable evidence of proficiency for the gold seal of biliteracy. And then I want to highlight one other, what I believe is an amazing piece related to these guidelines. If you flip over one more page, or in your case, scroll, on pages 24 and 25, we have provided an example rubric that provides for scoring alternate portfolio pathway to earn either the Silver Seal or the Gold Seal of Biliteracy. So not only have we outlined the assessments that would show the proficiency in English as well as an additional, at least one additional language, but also looking at rubrics for scoring alternate pathways to both the Seal of Biliteracy, either in silver or the gold level. Now, if you want to scroll down, I want to show you on page 18 and 19 real quick. I mentioned in the beginning that districts can choose, these are guidelines, minimal standards, that districts can choose to adopt in their district, develop a district policy in their district, and then recognize students for accomplishment in the languages. And so on pages 18 and 19, you will see that we've also provided in here just what we call a sample policy, so that if districts are interested in adopting this policy for their students, then they have a sample that they can work from. Again, this is not something that they require of them, but we wanted to give them a jumping off point to help them decide some, or establish some policy in their district. So the question then that I want to end with is, why do we have this Seal of Biliteracy? High school graduates who can function in 2 or more languages are equipped with the knowledge and skills needed to participate successfully in college, careers, in a diverse 21st century society. We recognize the value of language learning through this Seal of Biliteracy. We give students through these guidelines clear goal that encourages them to attain high proficiency levels in 1 or more languages in addition to English. It provides employers as well as post-secondary institutions with a method of identifying individuals, students with language and biliteracy skills. So we're proposing to take this to the board and to the August board meeting, ask them to approve it for APA. It'll go out for the public comment phase, and then we would return it with any comments for final approval. At this time, we would be glad to entertain any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Does the school district choose which languages they want to certify? Okay.
They would establish that in their district policy. And it would generally, I would think that it would be around what they offer, what opportunities they offer there in their district,
Brian Harvey from Clinton. I've got a question, and with regard to, and I'm assuming that there are no changes that are proposed for the accountability model, and I understand why on one hand, in that because proficiency scores on English are already included, AP scores are already included, but what about those students who come to us already speaking another language? They certainly don't have any scores, and then they score on the alternate assessment here. Has any thought been given to adding those students to the accountability model in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
So Brian, this is Nathan Oakley. I just came up to the table to address your question. We have not had any conversation about adjustments to the model at this point in time. We do recognize that many of these assessments are already in the model. For our students that are English learners, that they're already taking Lost Links, their current state assessment, that's included in the model. So many of the indicators we would use for this seal determination are already contained in our model.
This is Kelly Barfield. As I looked at the materials, I appreciated the clarity and consistency it looked like that this would provide to the schools when it came to the levels of language achievement. And I just, as a non-educator, am curious if there's any aspect of this that would hamper or be a problem for any school districts that we know of. It seems like only a positive proposal, but I'm always mindful there's usually some gray space out there.
Yep, we're not aware of any potential problem with it. Districts presently are, they've got opportunities to offer world languages both face to face and through online courses, and obviously are already offering English coursework K through 12. And so we just see this as an opportunity to give students recognition for being fluent in multiple languages. There's interest from international sector businesses in having students that are fluent in multiple languages, and so we thought this was a good way to recognize those accomplishments.
I would also add,
That was my takeaway. That was my takeaway. So I just wanted validation. I wasn't missing some detail there.
This is Lemuel. The committee was very, we thought every opportunity that would allow districts of wherever they are in the state to be able to implement this in their district and schools.
I may have will this just be a seal on their transcript that will just be added to the transcript? Okay.
Other questions from commission members?
I would also say that districts can choose also if they want to give a seal to students for their actual diplomas, they can do that as well. A lot of times if they're involved in honor societies or various, they'll get seals, so they can do that as well.
And company.
Thank you.
Okay, commission members, the next two items, we've actually discussed both of them, but we do need to vote on them separately. So item 5, is an approval to submit request to the State Board of Education to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process to establish State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 28, Rule 28.8, Mississippi Seal of Biliteracy. I will entertain a motion for approval. Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Williams. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Lindsay. Is there any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And then item 6, which we have already discussed, so we'll move on to item 7. Item 6 was just talking about the guidelines, which we did. So item 7 is approval to submit request of the State Board of Education to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process to establish state guidelines for the Mississippi Seal of Biliteracy. I will entertain a motion for approval. So moved. Motion by Ms. Williams. Do I have a second?
Sarah Foster, second.
Second by Ms. Foster. Is there any discussion? Members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. All right, item 8. Approval to change the previously approved commission meeting set for September 17th to September 11th.
I was just going to provide some context, just so you know. The state board voted last month to move the September date up. Therefore, the reason we need to move ours up is because the September meeting is when we approve the accountability standards for the statewide accountability system. And so in order for the board to be able to approve that on their September 12th date, we are going to need to meet before then so that we can review them first on September the 11th. So that's why we're needing to move that particular date. That is a Wednesday, because the state board meets on Thursday.
Dr. Van Forgis.
You do not have to ask for permission.
I just wanted to add a little bit of context because we have our accountability timeline laid out, and we were working toward the latter, the week, September. So we feel like we really need that extra day, and so our goal is to provide the accountability results embargoed to the commission the day before on the 10th. I know there was some concern last year that some commission members expressed that they did not see the statewide accountability results until you got to your tables the day of the meeting. So what we're going to do is to at least provide them to you 24 hours in advance of the meeting. So when we had to revise our timeline, accountability timeline after the board changed their date, so the plan is to release those results to you on the 10th, and then us meet on the 11th.
Questions on that? All right, at this time I'll entertain a motion to move the September 17th meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation to September the 11th, 2019.
Kelly Barfield, so moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. Barfield,
Boy, yeah, second.
Second.
second by Mr. Gill. Any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item 9, we have an information item, revisions to the accreditation policies of the State Board of Education and the Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards. Is that you, Dr. Malone?
Yeah, it's going to be a combination of several of us, I guess.
Okay.
So last month, we told you that we were in the process of trying to make some proposed revisions to the policies. We are still not at a point yet of asking you to vote on them, as we're still having some internal conversations and still tweaking them. However, we wanted to keep you posted of where we are in our thought process along the way. So in your backup materials, you have a red line version and a clean version. We know the red line version can make your eyes jump sometimes, but it kind of gives you the clarity of what things were and what is proposed. And then the clean version is just if we were to adopt the revisions, what it would look like. So we are still not asking for a vote at this time. We are providing them to you so that you can just be looking over them in case you have any questions, thoughts, suggestions as we move forward. But we do hope to get you something in the form of a request for approval to begin the APA process sometime soon. But no, these are still not, we're still not asking you for a vote yet.
Well, there's a couple things that I would add. First, even though it may not have a red mark through, I mean, if you have any suggestions in any areas that internally or the stakeholders that we've met with have not identified as a need to revise, please feel free to email Dr. Malone or me and provide those suggestions. I mean, because this is just, as Dr. Malone has said last month, and again, this is our best thinking. And one of the areas I would say that we've had the most conversation around and have received some stakeholder feedback that's not included in the backup is with the process to declare a state of an emergency and the time that's provided for a district or the agency to present during a state of emergency to the commission. And as you know, we've established a process over the last, I guess, 3 years or so that, and actually the commission is the one that recommended the process, and we placed it in our audit procedures at the time, is to allow a district 40 minutes to present, then to allow the MDE 40 minutes, and then to have each of our attorneys have 10 minutes of closing arguments. And at the time that this was established, the commission requested that the 40 minutes for the district be given to the district superintendent and or the board president, that's the individuals that the commission wanted to hear from the district. Now, there has been some recommendations that 40 minutes be provided to anyone in the district, so that if a district had a consultant that they wanted to use the 40 minutes, or if they had an attorney that they wanted to use the 40 minutes, that the 40 minutes belonged to the district and they could have anyone present on their behalf. But since the commission, or many of you, were those that really felt like that 40 minutes should be presented by the superintendent and or the board president, we have not made any suggestions to those revisions. So that's really been, I would say, Dr. Malone, can you think of anything that was recommended that we change that at this point we have not made any revisions to that section?
Audit procedure, which was a separate document, and when this ultimately comes forward to you, the request is to repeal that individual document, because we've folded everything into the one accountability standard. So you'll see the state of an emergency process in the standards, you'll see the audit report, compilation, etc. In there, you'll see the achievement school district now being identified. And then additionally, in the performance classification policy section, since it was the first time the commission addressed appeals this past year, and we had to kind of flush out a process for that, we have now included the process that the commission and the board ultimately adopted for that appeal process, with the time given to the district to present to the commission and to the board. That's been rolled into that section, so now we have something in writing that gives us some guidance.
Also, the adding of the achievement school district.
Mm-hmm. And then there's been updates and expansions on the schools at risk section based on changes with ESSA and how they're identified. Those names have been updated, and other things that have just been included, cleaned up, clarified. Some of the regurgitation of statute has been pulled out of the standards and just referenced to the statute, so that MD doesn't have to go back and bring this bring it before you to fix the policy if the statute's subject to change. The statute would always trump, but it's easier when it's as clean as possible. There's been expansion to the area on which Commission on School Accreditation has no authority. We're hoping this is helpful to districts and to citizens. Due to the volume of complaints that MD receives, it kind of gives guidance on what the Commission and the MD and the State Board have jurisdiction over. We'll get complaints about discrimination, questions about ethics, and there are different government bodies who handle those. So we've kind of laid that out to give a little more guidance. And the other, there's one more thing. One bit of feedback that we are considering, and we'd like the Commission's input, when there were some stakeholder meetings, there was a question about penalties for the adults when a state of emergency has been declared or accreditation has been withdrawn. Obviously, there's the consequence with extracurriculars that really impacts the students more than anything else. But there was the point of, well, what kind of consequences might there be for some of the adults who led the district into that situation. So if there's any recommendations, MD would like to hear those. I think that's all I have to say.
Any other comments or questions?
I have one.
Yes, this is Roy Gill. I just want to help me clarify this on 2.5.1. I noticed that the will is being changed to May on some of those standards. And it was discussed about putting school districts on probation after, and we talked about when all their issues were not having certified teachers. I don't know if anybody else remembers that discussion. We talked about looking at something else. And I know the difference between will and may. I haven't been able to cross-reference all the standards that the will is now the may be applied to. Is that standard in the list that will be applied to the may? Does that make sense at all?
I think that's standard 3.
No, it's standard 2 with licensed staff, but licensed staff is not in policy 2.5 for an immediate downgrade to probation or the recommendation to withdraw. But to your point, Mr. Gill, Dr. Malone and I met yesterday with another program office related to the financial standards, but part of because we know we need to revise Appendix H with the 4 consecutive financial violations, but we also began the conversation around Standard 2 as a result of the critical shortage and the conversations that we've been having in the agency with, regarding to licensed teachers. So to say we've found a resolve to that, the answer to that is no, but we have had the conversations, and I'm going to just be discussing that with the leadership team, because we do each year have a greater number of districts that are at risk for being placed on probation for that one standard.
Correct.
So, and so October is the commission meeting, which will be considering the statuses. So we'll only do performance classifications presented to you in September and statuses in October. So we're having that conversation.
This is just a small, maybe housekeeping thing, and it may be addressed, but this is 1.0, the page before, where you're taking out what CSA stands for in the first line. Is that addressed like from a layperson, when I'm reading all these standards and stuff, I don't know what all the abbreviations mean. The page before that?
Yes, all we gave you was 1 through 7 in this document. There's the whole introduction, which lays out a bunch of
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All right, item 10, other business. I have none.
I don't think I have it.
Our established next meeting will be September 11th. All right. So item 11, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Foster, so moved.
Second.
By Ms. Williams. Is there any discussion? All right, members that are present, all in favor? Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Opposed? We stand adjourned at 10:35. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.